Hello and welcome. This is going to be um, design patterns about specifically the adapter pattern. We're continuing on in our explanation, tutorial, demonstration within the design patterns from the Gang of Four. I really took a lot of time with this pattern, mostly because I was trying to figure out a way, how can I demonstrate this pattern visually through like an HTML file. I couldn't figure out a way. So this specific file, this specific tutorial is just going to be focused a lot on just the plain code, because the adapter pattern is pretty much just, you're just adapting some class or some object to fit the interface of some other class, since they don't connect together. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just break down a little bit of a diagram I have on this Wikipedia page, and hopefully that can give a little bit more information and explanation on the code. That way they can fit more into the explanation, visual demonstration, and then we'll just walk through the code together. Okay. So let's just look at this diagram and picture together, just so it can kind of explain and visually demonstrate how the adapter pattern can be used. Without looking at all the different boxes, interface, operations, let's just look at plainly these two objects here. We have a client and we have an adaptee. We're imagining that there is no way that these two objects, classes, can interact with each other. And that might be because of this interface here. Maybe there is an interface that's being implemented that the client object is being concreted, instantiated from, but we want to be able to connect this other class, maybe an adaptee or something else that doesn't necessarily fit into the target. So there's no way that they connect together. So with this design pattern, we're able to create some other class or interface or something that we can use that adapts to this target interface, and through that adapter we're able to connect the two together. The reason that there's two different pictures, it shows the two different implementations of the adapter. One is object and one is class. Most times you're going to be using this one. And the big reason why is because the object adapter is implementing the adapter as using composition. So we're trying to create an adapter that's being placed as an interface itself. That way we can have multiple adaptees, multiple ways that we can instantiate the adapter. So we're not being stuck to one specific way that we have to have the adaptee-adapter relationship, because maybe there are other classes in the future that are similar to the adaptee. So then we can reuse the adapter through composition. But whereas the class adapter is going to be using multiple inheritance, and a big thing that comes up a lot is just through certain languages like Java or C#, they don't allow multiple inheritance. You can create subclassing through this way of wrapping the adapter, and it will kind of continuously subclass, and you have to continuously inherit the adapter pattern from the parent, and so on and so forth, so it can interact together with the client. But most often than not, you're going to see the object adapter being implemented in place for the adapter pattern. So we're just going to look at the code that I've written. I created two examples, and at the very end of the video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about some subtle nuances with the adapter pattern, just in terms of multiple implementations, multiple adaptions of an adapter, because I think some of these subtle nuances are important. And a key part in the first example is we're just imagining that we have just maybe a media player that only will play some media. we have something like an advanced media player that only plays video and plays music. And so we're using the advanced media player and we're implementing something like a YouTube player, MP4 player. But let's say, for example, we have something like we have a class called the like audio text reader. And so how can we fit this these videos in together with this audio text reader? And so the way that we can connect the two together is we have this adapter here that encapsulate or wraps an interface, or the adapter interface, the play video, play music. And through that, we're able to instantiate and create the methods that we need to adapt to the target, which is basically the media player interface that just plays any media. And so through that, we're able to parse through and concrete implement different ways that we want to use our own adapter interface, which is just play vid, play music. And so through here, this is just a simple code that just will go through and parse through whether it's YouTube or MP4. But for your context, let's say, for example, you're using some library and you don't really exactly know the subtle nuances on the implementations on how that works. Through this adapter, you can kind of adjust and create your own way that you want to implement some classes to interact to that interface. And through that, we have this media adapter that's being inside of this audio text reader that will use the original target interface, which is just playing any sort of media. But because it encapsulates this media adapter, we're able to account for playing videos, playing music, and also reading text as well in this specific example. And I added a little bit of extra notes because, again, we're wanting to interact with the target, or we have the target and client, we want them to connect together. And so we have this adapter that's being implemented through another interface and class that's able to account for the totally different implementations of both the media player and the advanced media player. And the second example is a little bit different, not in terms of music or media, but we're thinking about maybe we have a credit card payment service. Let's pretend that we're using something like Square or Block or whatever, some crypto payment thing that we have this implementation of some methods, like maybe it's authorization or maybe it's to get some payment. And we want to be able to interact with this interface, but at the same time, we don't have anything that just fully adjusts or fully fits into that interface. We have maybe something like bank details, or maybe we just have this information that we're given from our application or from the program that just gets their name, their account, or something. And so we'll use the adapter to implement both that. We have the adapter that extends to this class, so it has all the information that this class has. So it's the concrete implementation of this class. At the same time, it will also implement this target interface. So this is a little bit different because the adapter is extending and using the class itself, or the target or client or whatever. It's extending that so it has all the methods, has everything. But at the same time, we are able to also implement some interface. And through that, we're able to have all the methods, have all the variables that we might need. And at the same time, we're able to interact or interface into this interface that doesn't directly connect together. So we're able to use the get bank details, get credit card that's maybe disconnected originally from the two classes, but we're able to connect those two together with this middle layer of an adapter to connect the client and target together. So that's pretty much what the adapter pattern is in a nutshell, but there are a lot of key points that I didn't explain, I didn't exactly talk about. More specifically, the key factor in using this pattern is connecting two different classes or objects or two different things that don't necessarily connect together, so we create an adapter. So the biggest dilemma is when would that happen? When we talk about different libraries or different modules or things like that, especially when you're talking about front-end development, maybe you're having a lot of libraries that you don't even know the specific implementation of. You just know that they perform some action. However, they don't always necessarily fit into a specific context that you need them to fit in. Sometimes that might be due to the fact that the way that they're originally implemented. Maybe you're using something in a collections library that will organize some different objects into a list, but then you think about, okay, I need this to fit into this context where maybe I use like a matrix or maybe I use a graph, but it doesn't necessarily fit that into this list because the defined list is an arrays. So if that happens, you would have to do both. You would have to create and instantiate a target interface that kind of wraps around the library itself. At the same time, you would want to do the same thing with the adapter. So it's not such a straightforward way of you just connect two different parts together and it'll work out, because a lot of times with libraries, you won't really know how they're specifically implemented unless that's open source or known. Sometimes you're able to get that information, like in Java, you're able to dissect and go down to those libraries. But sometimes going to find the original implementation or the actual information on how it's performing those actions, you're kind of lost, or you're not given that information. Another thing I noticed too is that when we're talking about object adapters that are using composition, we have maybe let's just say there's multiple different concrete implementations that require you to interact with some specific class. Let's say a sale. You make a sale and you want to have all of these different seemingly unrelated classes that maybe calculate tax, calculate information, log information. And so how can we encapsulate the sale and perform all of those different seemingly unrelated actions that connect together with the sale? And you can use the adapter class that way. And we would need to use multiple adapters that all kind of connect together in some way. If that doesn't make too much sense, there is some specific information examples online that cover multiple subclass implementations of an adapter. A big reason why I don't want to specifically go into details and cover it is because it's a very specific situation that, after I was thinking about it a lot, I think it only comes up when you have maybe a transaction, like a sale or something that performs an action that you need to have a lot of different subclasses connect to that transaction, and you want them to enact together and be connected together in some sort of interface. So it's a very niche situation example that can come up, but it's very hard to explain because personally I've never come across that specific situation or context. But if you do yourself, you might want to look up that information as well. So that's it. I'm just going to try and keep pushing out these videos and this information, but I hope that was helpful. So I hope you guys have a nice one, and thank you.